The first time Lily Hart stepped into the Harrington estate. Please subscribe our channel A Story a Day and drop your comment where from you watching our stories. Thank you. She felt as though she had walked into a world carved from silence. The ceilings arched like cathedral domes, chandeliers glittered like icy constellations, and every polished surface reflected a life far beyond her own. But Lily wasn't here to admire wealth. She was here because her mother, Maria Hart, had worked as a maid for the Harrington family for 6 years. And today, for the first time, 16-year-old Lily had to accompany her. Maria rarely asked her daughter for help, but the Harringtons were hosting an afternoon gathering, and the staff needed extra hands. Lily agreed, mostly because college brochures were beginning to pile up, and money was a thing they only discussed in size. As they entered the West Wing, Lily heard it, a sharp, echoing sound, a crash, then a small, strangled cry. Maria froze. "That's him," she whispered. "Master Oliver." Lily had only heard of the boy in passing. 11 years old, often overwhelmed, sensitive, withdrawn, rumors. Among the staff said the boy suffered intense panic episodes, especially when startled, and that his father, Alexander Harrington, billionaire, CEO, and man too busy to breathe, had no idea how to reach his son. Maria hurried toward the sound. Lily followed. They found Oliver sitting on the floor in the middle of the endless marble hallway, his small chest rising and falling too fast. A shattered porcelain horse lay near him, pieces scattered like fallen teeth. His hands trembled violently as he tried to breathe, but each attempt came out sharp and broken. Maria knelt slowly. "Oliver, sweetheart," she said in her softest voice. "It's all right. No one is angry." But Oliver didn't seem to hear her. His gaze was distant, swallowed by panic. Something inside Lily tightened. She had seen this before, her best friend back home, who suffered anxiety attacks during exams. Lily remembered sitting next to her, doing the one thing that always worked. She reached into her small canvas bag and pulled out a tiny plastic bottle. Bubble solution. She had brought it for her mother's break, thinking the gardens might be a peaceful place to blow bubbles, like she used to as a child. Strange habit, perhaps, but it had always soothed her. Maria looked at her questioningly, but Lily remained focused on the trembling boy. Slowly, she sat on the floor across from him. Not too close, not too fast. Then she opened the bottle and dipped the wand. The first bubble drifted gently between them, round, wavering, catching the chandelier's light like a drifting drop of crystal. Oliver's eyes flickered, just slightly. Lily blew another, and another. Soon the hallway shimmered with floating orbs. Oliver's breathing slowed, his shoulders lowered. He reached out a hesitant hand toward a passing bubble, touching nothing but air. For the first time, something warm, fragile but real, softened his frightened expression. What Lily did not know, what she could not have known, was that at the far end of the hallway, hidden behind a column, Alexander Harrington had been watching the entire time. And for the first time in years, he saw his son smile. Alexander Harrington remained hidden behind the column long after the last bubble drifted to the floor. His eyes stayed fixed on his son, now calmer, breathing normally, following the floating orbs with quiet fascination. It stunned him. Oliver had suffered episodes for nearly 3 years, and not once had Alexander been able to calm him. Not once. Not with expensive therapists. Not with carefully structured routines. Not with soft words he was never truly good at. Yet here, in the endless hallway he had built to impress powerful men, a maid's teenage daughter had done in minutes what he could not do in years. Lily, unaware of the watchful eyes on her, continued blowing bubbles softly until Oliver's breathing settled completely. She did not speak, did not push him, did not ask him to explain himself. She simply created small, fragile moments of beauty in a world that had frightened him. Maria watched her daughter with pride, though she remained respectful and cautious, knowing the Harrington family valued composure above all. When Oliver finally whispered, "Can you do it again?" Lily blinked in surprise. "Of course," she said, her voice warming. "As many as you want." The boy's lips curled into something shy, almost a smile. Alexander exhaled slowly, a tremor catching in his chest. He could not remember the last time he had seen that expression on his son. It was like watching sunlight touch a room long kept in darkness. He stepped forward before he realized it. Maria gasped softly and nudged Lily, who froze mid-bubble. Oliver followed her gaze, and upon seeing his father, the small spark of comfort flickered with uncertainty. His fingers tightened around himself, old fear creeping back. Alexander stopped immediately, as though afraid of breaking the moment. He softened his voice, a rare tone. "It's all right, Oliver," he said gently. "I'm just watching." Lily rose to her feet quickly. Sir, I'm sorry. Oliver just seemed upset and He raised a hand, calm, not commanding. Don't apologize. His eyes contained something she did not expect. Gratitude, and something else, exhaustion maybe, vulnerability, hidden beneath the perfection of wealth. Maria bowed her head nervously. Mr. Harrington, please forgive us if we overstepped. You didn't, he said firmly. Then he turned to Lily. How did you do that? Lily blinked. Do what, sir? Calm him. His voice cracked with sincerity. I've never seen him come down from a panic that fast. Lily hesitated, holding the small bubble bottle in her hand like a secret. Sometimes, when people can't breathe, they just need something gentle to focus on. Something small. Something small. Something safe. Alexander's gaze softened even further. I see. Oliver's eyes flicked between them, quieter now, but curious. You helped my son, Alexander said, his tone low. And I won't forget that. Lily swallowed, unsure whether she had done something wonderful or something she'd be scolded for later. But there was something she didn't know. Alexander Harrington never made promises lightly, and this one would change all three of their lives. They walked Oliver back to his study room, Maria carrying a dustpan for the broken porcelain horse, Lily keeping a careful distance so the boy wouldn't feel cornered. Alexander followed behind them, but not with the usual stern, businesslike stride his staff feared. He moved slower, like a man thinking more than acting. Oliver kept glancing at Lily, not with fear now, but with a quiet curiosity, as though she were a puzzle he wanted to understand. When they reached the study doorway, Oliver paused. His voice was soft, but steady. Can she stay? Maria looked as if she had heard an alarm. Master Oliver, sir, Lily has chores to help me with. But Alexander lifted his hand gently. It's all right. Lily's heart thumped. I don't have to stay, really. I don't want to bother anyone. Oliver's small voice came again. You don't bother me. Something inside Alexander shifted at the sight. His son, so often distant, asking for something with open honesty. It felt like a miracle he didn't quite understand. Lily, Alexander said, turning toward her with an unexpected softness. Do you mind staying a little longer? Only if you're comfortable. Lily exchanged a quiet look with her mother. Maria gave the smallest nod, permission, but also caution. They needed this job desperately. I can stay, Lily said. Oliver gave a tiny exhale of relief that nearly broke Alexander's heart. Inside the study, Lily noticed things she hadn't before. The shelves filled with books. Oliver never finished. The expensive toys he hardly touched. The huge windows that let in too much cold, white light. Nothing in the room felt like it belonged to a child. Everything looked curated, designed, beautiful but lonely. Lily sat near the window seat while Oliver approached timidly with a notebook in his hands. Do you like drawing? She asked. He shrugged. Sometimes, but then he added, I draw animals, mostly horses. Lily smiled gently. The porcelain one, was it yours? No, Oliver's face fell. It was my mother's. Maria stiffened. Lily felt her breath catch. She had heard rumors, whispers that Mrs. Harrington had died 3 years earlier. A car accident. And that was when Oliver's episodes began. Oh, Lily said softly. I'm sorry. Oliver didn't respond. He simply sat beside her and opened his notebook. Inside were delicate pencil sketches, horses running through fields, standing by fences, rearing up with wild energy. Beautiful work, gentle work. You're really talented, Lily said. Oliver, with such sincerity, can you blow more bubbles? Oliver asked suddenly, breaking the heavy moment. Lily laughed softly. Of course. She reached for the bottle again and sat on the rug this time. Oliver sat across from her, knees tucked to his chest but eyes bright with anticipation. The first bubble floated upward, wobbling like a tiny planet made of sunlight. Oliver watched it with wonder. Alexander watched Oliver. Maria watched Lily, and all three adults felt something similar. Fragile hope. You make them so perfect, Oliver murmured. There's no such thing as a perfect bubble, Lily said. They're all different. That's why they're special. Oliver nodded slowly, as though learning a new truth. Another bubble drifted up. This one popped softly against the ceiling. Alexander spoke quietly, almost to himself. Some things don't have to be perfect to be good. Maria glanced at him, surprised by the vulnerability in his tone. After a while, Alexander said, Oliver, I have a meeting in an hour. Would you like Lily to stay until then? Oliver nodded shyly. Lily looked at her mother. Maria nodded with a small, proud smile. Then it settled, Alexander said. But as he walked away, He paused at the door just long enough to look back at Lily. This girl who had changed the entire rhythm of his home in a single afternoon. Without meaning to, without even understanding the full weight of it. He gave her a grateful smile. A smile Lily would remember for a very long time. By the time Alexander left for his meeting, the mansion fell into its usual hush, a silence so thick it almost echoed. Lily blew bubbles while Oliver watched, sometimes catching one, sometimes simply following its shimmering drift with his eyes. It was peaceful, in a fragile kind of way. When Maria excused herself to continue her duties, Lily found herself alone with the boy. She didn't panic. She'd babysat cousins, neighbors, and kids from church before. But this was different. Oliver wasn't just shy, he was layered with years of grief and loneliness. "Do you always feel scared like that?" she asked gently, not wanting to overstep but wanting to understand. Oliver didn't look up. He traced circles on the carpet with his finger. "Not always." Then, after a pause, "Sometimes my chest feels full, like there's no space for air." Lily nodded softly. "Yeah, I get that." "You do?" He finally looked at her, truly looked. "Everyone gets overwhelmed," she said. "Some people just hide it better than others." Oliver considered that, brows furrowing as if she'd said something profound. "Do you get panic attacks too?" he asked. "Not exactly," Lily replied, choosing honesty. "But I've felt trapped before. When things get too loud or too fast. When life feels bigger than I can handle." Oliver nodded slowly. "That's what it feels like, big, too big." Lily blew another bubble and let it float between them. "Then we'll make things small again. One bubble at a time." Oliver stiffened instantly, fear that Lily would leave. Lily noticed. "Thank you," she said kindly. "But I'm fine here for now." Mrs. Green's eyes flicked to Oliver, then Lily, studying the connection forming between them. "Very well," she said, stepping back out. When the door closed, Oliver whispered, "Please don't go." "I'm not," Lily assured. "I promised I'd stay until your dad's meeting is done, remember?" He nodded, gripping the hem of his shirt nervously. Lily sat cross-legged on the floor. "Do you want to do something else? We can draw, talk, or I can show you a trick." "A trick?" Oliver's curiosity sparked instantly. Lily held up the bubble wand. "Yeah, my friend taught me how to blow a bubble inside another bubble. Want to see?" His eyes widened with childlike excitement. "Yes." Lily dipped the wand carefully and blew a large bubble on the table surface. Then, using a smaller wand, she gently blew a second bubble inside the first. The look of awe on Oliver's face made her grin. "That's magic," Oliver whispered. "Not really," she giggled. "Just patience." Oliver traced the edges of the bubble with his gaze like it was a treasure. For a moment, the mansion no longer felt cold or distant. It felt warm, alive, human. What Lily didn't know was that down the hallway, a staff member secretly made a quiet phone call. Not out of malice, but because the mansion had rules, and Lily had unknowingly broken one. The quiet phone call traveled faster through the mansion than any whisper. Within minutes, Mrs. Green found herself standing in the dim, oak-paneled corridor, speaking in low tones to Mr. Hawthorne, the estate's senior administrator, a man who treated rules with the same reverence others reserved for religion. "She's alone with him?" Mrs. Green murmured. "Lily Hart, Maria's daughter." Mr. Hawthorne's brows pulled together sharply. "That's not permitted. No employee's family is allowed to be, unsupervised with the heir." His tone wasn't angry, just absolute. "It's a liability." Mrs. Green hesitated. "Sir, the boy looks calmer than I've ever seen him." "Calmer or not, rules are rules." Mrs. Green lowered her voice even more. "And Mr. Harrington?" Mr. Hawthorne straightened. "Mr. Harrington approves of structure. And structure is what keeps this household functioning." But Mrs. Green felt the tiniest tug of uncertainty. Alexander had not sounded structured. Earlier, he had sounded grateful, hopeful, human. Still, Hawthorne had seniority. And once he made a decision, the rest of the staff followed. "We'll address it immediately," he said, turning toward the study. Inside the study, Lily and Oliver were completely unaware of the growing storm outside the door. Oliver leaned closer to the shimmering double bubble sitting on the wooden surface, his breath catching with fascination. "How do you do that?" he whispered. "Carefully," Lily said, grinning. "If you rush it, the bubble pops." Oliver stared at her thoughtfully. "People rush me a lot." Lily's smile faded a little. "They probably just don't understand how you work. Everyone has their own pace." He nodded slowly, as if putting puzzle pieces into place. But before he could say more, the study door swung open. Mr. Hawthorne stepped inside, with the authority of someone who believed. He owned the air around him. "Miss Hart," he said sharply, "a word." Oliver flinched instantly. Lily felt her stomach drop. Is something wrong? She asked cautiously. Mr. Hawthorne's gaze was firm, impersonal. You are not permitted to be alone with the young master. Family of staff are not authorized child companions. Please gather your belongings at once. Oliver's eyes widened in fear. No, he whispered. She's not doing anything wrong. This is not about wrongdoing, Hawthorne said. It's about protocol. Lily stood, palms slightly sweaty. Sir, Mr. Harrington asked me to stay with Oliver until… Mr. Harrington did not authorize you to violate household policy. Hawthorne's voice was cold steel. I will speak with him. For now you must leave. Oliver's breathing changed instantly. Not panic. Not yet. But the beginnings of it. No! Oliver stood up so fast the chair fell backward. Don't make her go. Mrs. Green appeared behind Hawthorne, looking torn, but unable to intervene. Hawthorne, Lily tried, if you just wait. This is not up for discussion. Oliver's breaths turned shallow. Please don't leave me, he whispered, voice trembling. Please. Lily crouched so her eyes met his. Oliver, I'm not leaving you forever. I'm just… No. His hands shook violently. Please don't let them take you away. Hawthorne stepped forward. Miss Hart, now. And just as Oliver's knees buckled, just as the panic finally broke through, a voice thundered from behind them. Enough. Every head snapped toward the doorway. Alexander Harrington stood there, eyes blazing, jaw set, every inch of him a storm barely contained. And the look on his face made it clear. The rules of this house were about to change. The room froze. Hawthorne straightened at once, posture rigid. Mrs. Green bowed her head instinctively. Even the air seemed to tighten as Alexander Harrington stepped inside, the door clicking shut behind him. But his eyes weren't on the staff. They were on his son, trembling, breath racing, face pale with rising panic. And then on Lily, who knelt beside him like a shield. Alexander's voice was low, dangerous. What, he asked, is happening here? Hawthorne cleared his throat. Mr. Harrington, I was merely enforcing household protocol. Staff family members are not permitted to… Protocol? Alexander's voice cracked like thunder. Protocol just triggered my son's panic attack. Hawthorne blinked. Sir, I assure you. No, Alexander snapped, stepping closer. You do not assure me. You do not raise your voice at a child already struggling. And you do not order someone who is helping him to leave. The entire room held its breath. Lily felt Oliver clutch her sleeve with shaking fingers. Alexander's eyes softened instantly when he saw it. He lowered himself to Oliver's level, the second time in one day, an act that said more than any speech could. It's all right, Oliver, he whispered. I'm here. Oliver pressed his forehead against his father's shoulder for a brief moment, seeking comfort, grounding himself. Lily looked away respectfully, but her chest tightened. That moment was rare, precious. Alexander placed a steady hand on Oliver's back until the boy's breathing began to slow, just barely. Then he lifted his gaze again, and the softness vanished. Hawthorne, he said slowly, you will not speak to Lily Hart or her mother in that tone again. Is that clear? Hawthorne swallowed. Sir, is that clear? Yes, Mr. Harrington. Mrs. Green looked stunned but relieved. Alexander continued, voice carved from authority and anger. I told Lily she could stay with Oliver. She is my invited guest, not a staff child breaking rules. Hawthorne stiffened at the correction. Alexander wasn't done. From this moment, he said, any rule that prevents my son from receiving comfort, support, or basic human connection will be rewritten immediately. Silence, heavy, absolute. Mrs. Green nodded quickly. Yes, sir. Hawthorne, however, looked like a man being forced to swallow nails. But he bowed his head anyway. As you wish. Alexander's expression hardened. Leave us. Hawthorne backed out, jaw clenched. Mrs. Green followed more gently, giving Lily a fleeting look of apology. When the door closed, the tension in the air finally broke. Oliver wrapped both arms around Lily suddenly, burying his face against her shoulder. Lily froze for a second. She hadn't expected it. But then she gently hugged him back. Alexander watched, chest tightening at the sight. He spoke softly. Lily, thank you. She looked up, confused. For what? For staying, he said. For not letting him face this alone. Lily swallowed hard, emotions swirling. So I wouldn't leave him. Not like that. Alexander nodded slowly, and in that quiet, fragile moment, he realized something about Lily Hart. She wasn't just helping Oliver. She was changing the way he saw his son. And maybe the way he saw himself. After Hawthorne and Mrs. Green left the study, the room felt different, lighter. but also charged with something unspoken. Lily remained seated on the floor with Oliver still leaning against her. His breathing had steadied, though his small hand still gripped her sleeve like she might vanish if he blinked. Alexander moved slowly, as though afraid a sudden gesture might unsettle his son again. "Oliver," he said softly, "can you look at me?" Oliver hesitated, then lifted his head. Alexander brushed a hand through his son's hair. Gentle, uncertain, the way a man touches something fragile he doesn't want to break. "Are you feeling better?" Oliver nodded weakly. "Good," Alexander murmured. "You did nothing wrong. Do you understand me?" Oliver nodded again. "Lily didn't either," he whispered. Alexander exhaled. "No, she didn't." Lily felt something twist inside her chest. Gratitude, maybe. Or shock that someone like Alexander Harrington would defend her so fiercely. Maria entered a moment later, quiet but worried. "Is everything all right?" Alexander turned to her. "Maria, your daughter helped my son more than anyone in this house today. I owe her, and you, an apology for the distress caused." Maria nearly stumbled. Employers did not apologize in the Harrington mansion. "Sir, you don't have to—" "Yes," Alexander said gently, "I do." Oliver tugged on Lily's sleeve. "Can you stay for dinner?" Maria froze. Lily hesitated. Oliver looked at his father, hopeful eyes wide and vulnerable. Alexander paused, his gaze moving between Lily, Oliver, and Maria. "If it's okay with your mother, then yes, you're invited." Maria's eyes softened with something like awe. Her daughter, invited to the Harrington family table? That table had hosted diplomats, CEOs, and political royalty. Never staff. Never staff children. Lily looked at her mother. Maria's answer came in a whisper. "If you want to." Lily nodded shyly. "I'd like to stay." Oliver's entire face lit up. The dining room. They entered the massive dining hall, a grand room framed by glittering chandeliers and a table long, enough to host 30 people. But tonight it was just 4 chairs set together on one end. Alexander sat at the head. Oliver took the seat next to him. Lily sat beside Oliver. Maria took the seat slightly behind Lily, unsure if she truly belonged at the table. Alexander noticed immediately. "Maria, please sit with us." Maria blinked, startled. "Sir, There's no staff boundary tonight," he said gently. "You're our guests." Slowly, Maria sat. The servers entered, silent as shadows, placing dishes carefully in front of them. Roasted chicken, steamed vegetables, fresh bread. Lily felt out of place, almost afraid to touch the cutlery, but Oliver nudged her softly. "It's okay," he whispered. "I'm glad you're here." Lily smiled, warmth blooming inside her chest. Alexander watched that small exchange with a quiet, unreadable expression, one that held gratitude, and something else, something deeper, something he wasn't ready to name. Dinner passed gently, conversation soft. Oliver more alive than Alexander had seen in years. And by the time dessert arrived, Alexander Harrington had made a decision, one that would soon shake Lily's entire world. Dessert was simple, vanilla custard with fresh berries. But in the grand Harrington dining room, it felt monumental. Oliver eagerly spooned the dessert into his mouth, occasionally glancing at Lily, who quietly ate beside him. Maria watched cautiously, still unsure if she belonged, yet feeling warmth she hadn't felt in years. Alexander Harrington remained silent for much of the meal. His fork paused mid-air as he observed them. Not the food, not the luxury, not even his own towering reflection in the polished silverware. He observed Lily Hart. When the plates were cleared, Alexander leaned back, steepling his fingers. "Lily," he began, voice deliberate, "what you did for Oliver today, it wasn't just remarkable, it was extraordinary. I've never seen him calm so quickly, or trust someone so completely." Lily's fingers tightened nervously in her lap. "I just sat with him, helped him breathe. That's all." Alexander shook his head slowly. "It's more than all that. You brought him joy, security, and something he hasn't had in years. And for that, I want to offer you something unusual." Oliver tilted his head, curious. "You have a talent, patience, empathy, understanding," Alexander said. "And I'd like you to spend more time with him. Not as a temporary visitor, not just when the household allows. I want you to be his friend, a companion." Maria's breath caught. Lily's eyes widened. Alexander's tone was measured. "I will ensure your education and responsibilities are respected. This isn't a job. It isn't a favor. It's an invitation to change a life. And in the process, you may discover something about yourself too." Lily's voice trembled slightly. I don't know if I could. I've never done anything like that for anyone, so important." Alexander leaned forward, his gaze firm. "Importance doesn't always come from wealth. It comes from impact. What you did for my son matters more than anything I could buy with money. That matters far more than protocol, prestige, or appearances. Oliver's small hand slipped into Lily's. Will you stay? He asked softly. Lily swallowed, her heart pounding. Yes, she whispered. Maria's eyes glistened with tears. Sir, thank you. This means more than you know. Alexander nodded, his expression softening for just a fraction of a second. I am not doing this out of obligation. I am doing this because it's right. And because, well, someone needs to help my son feel safe. You did that? Today. Oliver leaned closer to Lily, whispering, I'm glad you're here. The simplicity of that statement hit Alexander harder than any contract negotiation, any business triumph, any boardroom victory ever could. He realized, finally, that life's most important investments weren't in stocks or properties. They were in human connections. Tiny, fragile, powerful moments that could change the course of someone's life forever. And tonight, in the Harrington dining room, with custard spoon still in hand and the chandelier casting gentle light over polished mahogany, Alexander Harrington made a promise. To himself, to his son, and to a girl who had never been part of this world, but had already changed it. A promise that would ripple through the walls of the mansion, and through all their lives. The mansion was quiet again, the echoes of dinner fading into the polished marble halls. But tonight, something had shifted, not in the walls, not in the chandeliers, but in the very air between people. Something delicate, yet unbreakable, had taken root. Lily sat beside Oliver in the study, the tiny bubble wand resting gently in her hand. Oliver's sketchbook was open, his pencil tracing horses that galloped across the pages with newfound energy. He was calm now, but not empty. Joy, tentative and fragile, had returned to him, and Lily felt her chest tighten at the sight. Alexander stood by the window, observing silently. He was no longer the rigid, untouchable billionaire father. Tonight, he was a man who had glimpsed something he had long forgotten, the power of trust, empathy, and the simplest forms of love. Oliver, Alexander said finally, his voice soft but carrying the authority of years of experience, would you like to show Lily one of your favorite drawings? Oliver's eyes lit up, and he eagerly handed her the sketchbook. Lily leaned in, admiration on her face. Alexander watched the interaction, noticing the small ways his son smiled and laughed. Tiny sparks of light he thought had been extinguished long ago. When Oliver finished, he leaned against Lily and whispered, Thank you for staying. Lily hugged him gently. I'm not going anywhere, Oliver. Not now. Not ever if I can help it. Alexander cleared his throat and approached them slowly. Lily, he said, kneeling beside his son, what you did today, it changed more than Oliver's afternoon. It changed this household. It reminded me of something I'd almost forgotten, that life isn't measured in money or rules, but in moments like these. Lily blinked, taken aback by the sincerity in his tone. I just wanted him to feel safe, she admitted softly. And you succeeded, Alexander replied, eyes glimmering. Not because of anything I could buy, not because of my authority, but because of your heart. That is a rare gift, Lily Hart. Maria appeared in the doorway quietly, watching them with a mixture of awe and pride. Her daughter, a simple girl who had stepped into a mansion full of rules and wealth, had reached the heart of a boy, and a father in ways neither money nor protocol ever could. Alexander's hand rested briefly on Oliver's shoulder, a silent promise, a gentle anchor. We will do everything we can to nurture this bond, he said. This house will no longer be just a place of rules and walls. It will be a home, for you, for Oliver, and for all of us. Oliver looked up at Lily, then at his father, a smile tugging at the corners of his lips. A home? He asked softly. Yes, Alexander replied, voice warm, steady. A home? Lily felt a rush of hope. She had never imagined her simple act of blowing bubbles could lead to this, a family. Fragile and imperfect, yet bound together by trust, kindness and courage. That night, as the chandeliers glimmered and the mansion settled into calm, Lily realized something profound. Changing a life didn't always require grand gestures. Sometimes it only required patience, a gentle hand, and the courage to care. And in that quiet, luminous study, surrounded by sketches, bubbles, and love rediscovered, a new beginning had quietly, irrevocably begun. Oliver leaned against Lily once more, and Alexander watched them both with something approaching awe. They were all changed now, forever. The Harrington mansion was no longer just a home of wealth and rules. It had become a home of hearts. Ears reddened. Thank you. Alexander watched them from the doorway, unannounced but not hidden this time. For once, he wasn't thinking about mergers, stockholders, or evening meetings. He was thinking about his son, how effortless he looked right now, sitting beside this girl he had met only minutes ago, perhaps too effortless. His jaw tightened slightly. He had tried everything for Oliver, hired the best specialists money could buy, and yet this simple, kind girl wearing second-hand shoes and holding a bottle of bubbles had reached him in a way no expert ever did. Alexander folded his arms, not in judgment, but in something close to awe, and perhaps a little fear, because one question began forming in the back of his mind. What else could she change? For several minutes, no one spoke. Lily quietly admired Oliver's drawings while he shyly pointed at his favorites. Maria dusted shelves she'd dusted 100 times before, pretending not to watch them with the cautious protectiveness only a mother could possess. And Alexander. He stood silently in the doorway, arms crossed, observing the unlikely scene unfolding before him. To anyone else, it would look small, ordinary, but to Alexander, it was nothing short of extraordinary. He cleared his throat softly and stepped further inside. Oliver straightened immediately. Old reflex, the kind born from trying. Too hard to be perfect around a father who never had time to slow down. Lily noticed it instantly. Alexander did too, and for the first time it hurt him, deeply. I didn't mean to interrupt, Alexander said quietly. You're not interrupting, Lily replied before she realized she'd spoken aloud. She flushed. I mean, Oliver was just showing me his drawings. Alexander approached the desk slowly. May I see? Oliver hesitated, then nodded. The billionaire leaned over, examining the careful pencil strokes, each line delicate yet certain. These are good, he said, voice softer than Lily expected. Really good. Oliver swallowed. Mom taught me to draw horses. The room seemed to tighten with silence. Alexander breathed in slowly, steadying himself. Yes, he said quietly. She did. Lily sensed she shouldn't speak, so she stayed silent, allowing father and son a moment she wasn't sure either of them had shared in a long time. After a while, Alexander straightened. Lily, he began, would you mind walking with me for a moment? Maria's head snapped up. Sir, it's all right, he reassured gently. Maria, stay with Oliver for a minute. Lily's stomach fluttered with nerves. Had she done something wrong? Did he want to rebuke her? Or worse, fire her mother for letting her interfere? But when she stepped into the hallway beside him, Alexander's expression wasn't angry. It was tired, honest, human in a way she hadn't seen earlier. Thank you, he said simply. Lily blinked. For Mum what? For bubbles? For giving my son something I haven't been able to give him in years. His